Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to the Outsiders channel. It's an absolute privilege to be able to talk to you today about what I'm going to be reviewing because it's incredibly dear to my heart, and that is the Tomb of Curses. It's finally ready. Now, anybody that's followed my channel will know that I actually originally tried a challenge on YouTube about 2.5 years ago with the Tomb of Curses. Originally built off an idea I had going back, right back into the day, about as a DM, using all my experience collectively to try and give high-level characters the challenge of a lifetime, to bring back that fear that they had when they were very low level, but do it in a way where each mistake that they might make, they have to look back on it and think, yes, I had a chance, I didn't seize the opportunity, and it's my own mistake, that's the reason we failed. And that was really critical to the building of the Tomb of Curses. Now, subsequently, for the Tomb of Curses has now evolved from what we did 2.5 years ago to be taken into a format which I think suits it best, which is, of course, Dungeon Crawl Classics. That's what the Tomb of Curses is designed for. There's nothing stopping anybody taking the bare bones of the story and using it really for any fantasy, particularly fantasy RPG. But I'm not going to spoil anything here. I'm going to give a little taster now, and then, of course, give you a little snippet of the actual module. I'm not going to cover too much off, but what I can tell you is this. For DCC, it's a 6th to 8th level, multi-dimensional adventure, which I think is fantastic. And as Paul Wolf, who's the lead writer, the absolute genius in taking a bare-bone idea and basically putting layers on it that effectively drip it in Appendix N gold, and of course the artwork to complement it via Scott, and particularly David Fisher, who's been immense throughout the entire project. I'm proud to be able to put that out there and tell you that this product's about to go live. I will naturally put a link on the bottom of this video for you to have a look at it, and we would welcome any of your reviews, particularly those people that like DCC. I think you're going to be very, very excited about this one. And I'd like to think that when we look back in 2 or 3 years' time at this one product, people will remember that, yeah, it really is something that is a lot of fun to run and a lot of fun to be involved in. And as Paul Wolf quite rightly says in the intro, we're going to look at a few snippets in a moment, the GM has to consider whether you should just have 5 pre-gens. So that's how tough it is. And I love that. And my honest advice to all DCC players is simply this. You can't use 5 pre-gens. You've got to take your favourite character into it. You've got to want to risk that character and see if you can be the ones that get through this module. And if you do, think about the achievement that actually is. That really is going to be some achievement that you've accomplished. Naturally, you have my email address at the end of this video. Obviously, again, if people have any questions, you're free to shoot me a question. I normally do get back to you fairly rapidly. I have had some strange experiences on internet problems at the moment, but all of that seems to have now been resolved. So anyway, we're going to now take a look at the product, take some screenshots, and I'll do a few voiceover pieces on top of it so you can have a little look at it. But I don't want to give too much away about the actual adventure for obvious reasons, but I want to hopefully whet your appetite about this one. And I hope, like me, you'll take the journey to take a look. And who knows, maybe you'll convert it to a different system or whatever. And if you do convert, or want to convert this particular module, say for example to Pathfinder or to a different fantasy system, then please do shoot me an email and I'm sure we can work something out. Anyway, thanks very much. I've been Sean and I'll see you again at the end. Till then, looking forward to what you make of this. See you in a moment. Let's go over the introduction as Paul Wolf wrote it. The Tomb of Curses is a high-level adventure for 6 to 10 characters from levels 6 through 8. To successfully navigate and escape from the tomb, the party should have a balance of classes, including several spellcasters and at least 1 thief. If the optional entrance encounter described in the player introduction is used, the party should have at least 2 wizards or elves. The tomb is site-based adventure and can be inserted into any campaign. The Tomb of Curses is designed to be an incredibly difficult and unique challenge. The characters are stuck in an extra-dimensional prison tomb from which there is almost no escape. With this in mind, judges should consider whether to provide pre-generated characters or to put players' treasured characters into this position. In my humble opinion, and as it's DCC, that's where the fun is taking the challenge on. Let's sum up the tomb in a sentence, and I think this is the one that best does it. Hell hath no fury like an ex-wife scorned, and Uther Pentars 8 of them. For some, even death cannot trump the need for revenge. Prey to a vicious curse, the party must walk a careful path through an other-dimensional tomb to win their freedom. Can they survive the centuries-long multiverse spanning vendetta of Uther Pentar's wives long enough to escape? Mr. Goodman himself said the art on page 26, which you see before you, and we'll look at it again in a moment, is something that he really liked. And I think you'll enjoy that immensely. There, of course, is the classic intrigue, the unusual, the things that you'd expect to find in a tomb. Even perhaps things that you would not. Eyes have it, I believe. But no journey would be complete without looking back to the roots, the very first drawings, some of the first ink work that was done, perhaps even some of the ideas behind the tomb that would later change. Maybe even we should look at the very concept art itself, going right back to the very early days, the roughs that I drew down of the tomb, the things that I wanted it to achieve and the reasons behind it. A lot of them have subsequently changed. Thank you for taking the journey with me to this conclusion point. I think you'll agree, for those that know the channel will know where it all began in terms of YouTube. But the story began 30 years ago. It really began when I started GMing. And all the original classics, all the brilliant modules that were around that inspired me to want to challenge my players. I've always been a fan of what I call the grand palette colour. That's dungeon bashing, really, of dungeon crawls. It should be no huge surprise why I'm such a huge fan of dungeon crawl classics, and it was an absolute privilege to have an idea taken on board and run with such a great writer. And we mustn't lose sight, of course, of the wonderful, wonderful art, and I've only given a snippet away, that accompanies this particular module. It's going to be, in my view, regarded as a superb ultimate challenge in DCC as it stands at this point, and one that is fair but incredibly difficult, but very rewarding for the very few that ever get through it. Naturally, I'm excited to see this about to go live for lots of reasons. It's almost feels like the end of a chapter in some ways, that you have this concept, this baby, you give it to someone, you hope, pray that they can take it and do something really wonderful with the idea. And not only did Paul do that, but with the accompanying art, I think these guys have pushed this from what is essentially pretty basic into something which is incredibly, intensely amazing. And I'm blown away by their efforts to take a concept and deliver something as good as this. And I'm convinced, for those that do go ahead and download and do go ahead and buy this ultimately when it goes live as a physical product as well, I'm absolutely chuffed to be able to say that the Tomb of Curses is going to be something that many will remember for a long time to come. And even if you begrudgingly don't like the great grand palette colour of Dungeon Crawls, trust me, just reading this one will have you thinking back to those glory days and thinking, yeah, you know what, maybe I just want to give it a go again. Anyway, I've been Sean Carlos. This has been Outsiders, talking all about the Tomb of Curses. Thanks for taking the journey with me. Until next week, we'll be doing a board game review. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.